I mean, honestly, the way that I get into a character is through their style. So it was more about who Lily is that was so fascinating to me.
It's based on a beautiful, really important book, and it's about a young woman named Lily who confronts the generational cycles in her life.
Recently revealed details have drawn attention to a compelling turn of events in the ongoing conflict between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. It appears that a large collection of behind-the-scenes material has emerged, including video clips that capture candid moments unveiling Lively's genuine feelings about Baldoni and his approach to a major film adaptation. These developments are sending shockwaves through entertainment circles, prompting both fans and industry insiders to wonder what this so-called unreleased footage might expose about Lively's initial excitement and how that compares with her subsequent complaints. Over the past few months, tensions between Lively and Baldoni have escalated into a multi-layered legal and public relations battle. The heart of the dispute is a film project originally envisioned as a heartfelt adaptation of a beloved novel, emphasizing themes of human connection and personal growth. The proposed adaptation promised considerable emotional resonance and thoughtful storytelling. Baldoni, recognized for his expertise in emotionally driven narratives, was set to direct and co-produce. Early in the development phase, supporters were thrilled to learn that Lively had been chosen for a leading role. Although Ryan Reynolds never held an official producer credit, rumors swirled that his involvement, both direct and indirect, was shaping key production decisions. At first, all parties appeared to share the goal of doing justice to the novel's storyline. However, fissures soon began to emerge. Deliberations on character development, costume design, and comedic elements became increasingly heated. Baldoni cautioned that the film risked losing its emotional grounding if it tilted too far into humor or showcased excessively lavish outfits for characters meant to be dealing with financial struggles. Lively's representatives, on the other hand, described her proposals as purposeful creativity, arguing that she was attempting to update certain parts of the story to resonate with modern audiences and preserve the image she has developed over her career. Initially, these artistic differences seemed manageable, typical of any large-scale production. Yet the disagreements spiraled and took on a life of their own. Lively eventually filed a formal complaint, alleging that she felt marginalized. Baldoni contested her version of events by making public text messages, scheduling notes, and production logs, indicating that Lively remained active and excited for a large portion of their collaboration. He suggested that her public outcry was primarily about gaining leverage in shaping the film. In a bold countermove, Baldoni filed a colossal defamation suit worth $400 million, alleging that his reputation and potential earnings had been damaged. This standoff has captured the attention of more than just fans of the original novel.
She said, just read it, because I was looking for movies that could be commercial and speak to the human experience. And
were you reading romance novels?
And I had never read a romance novel.
Never?
And she said, just trust me, read it. So I read it, and by the end of the book, I couldn't even read the text on the page because I was crying so much. My wife was in bed next to me, and she's, I got snot coming out of my nose.
The entire entertainment industry is watching. Part of the intrigue stems from the enormous financial stakes, but the star power of Lively, Baldoni, and Reynolds also feeds the intense curiosity. Observers have speculated about everything from creative clashes to power struggles behind closed doors. Recently, the spotlight has shifted to the possible impact of a huge trove of communications that Baldoni's legal team has already publicized or hinted they might unveil in full. With whispers swirling about private text threads and on-set footage, a new angle has emerged. A set of unreleased clips that might show Lively's candid reactions to Baldoni's directorial style. Allegedly, these recordings present Lively at various points during the production, at times expressing approval for aspects of the film that she would later criticize. Some who say they've seen snippets of the material claim that it captures genuine excitement from Lively when discussing certain plot details, comedic diversions, or clothing choices. If true, this would call into question her later statements that such creative decisions were forced on her or that she was left uninformed about the film's overall tone. Such a disparity could transform public perceptions of Lively's stance, especially if she is seen both appreciating comedic moments or glamorous costumes, and simultaneously praising Baldoni's vision. Exactly why the rift became so severe remains a matter of debate. Baldoni's associates maintain that his chief objective has always been to stay faithful to the novel's emotional core. By depicting the lead character's financial hardship, he aimed to preserve the personal struggle that defines the book. When photos of Lively wearing upscale ensembles on set emerged, At odds with the protagonist's humble background, fans expressed confusion, and social media reaction ranged from curiosity to mild ridicule. Those close to Baldoni argue that Lively's focus on high-end fashion threatened to eclipse the essence of the narrative, eroding the raw emotional tension that readers so cherish. Lively's advocates, in turn, view her stance on both costumes and comedic tones as forward-looking. She has cultivated her career partly around her sense of style and comedic wit, believing these qualities can broaden a film's appeal. In their eyes, she aimed to mesh the original themes with what current audiences would find engaging. In that context, the freshly leaked footage has sparked debate about how receptive she was to Baldoni's direction in the project's initial phases. If the clips show her fully endorsing a subdued costume concept or applauding certain emotionally charged scenes, it becomes more difficult for detractors to argue that she intended to overshadow the film's emotional depth with lighter or more glamorous elements. Still, many people warn that brief excerpts of footage can be misleading without a complete picture. Lively might appear enthusiastic in isolated moments, yet still be uneasy about other decisions. Neither legal team has affirmed that the leaked content conveys a holistic view of the production's timeline. Even so, the very presence of these recordings, and hints of more to follow, has heightened the tension.
A lot of it's my real life clothes or my husband's clothes or my girlfriend Gigi's clothes. I was borrowing some.
Wait, that's kind of amazing. So you have something of Gigi's in the movie.
Yeah, it's like a wedding, like something old, something borrowed, something blue, something new.
Wait, which
except
one?
it's just,
Now I want to think of the scene.
Oh, I'm wearing her stuff all over it.
Oh, really?
And tons of like Bodhi, which is with the suit now that I'm wearing is Bodhi. It was meant for my husband, but I borrowed
that's
it.
his suit?
It was meant for him to wear, but it's so pretty. Look at it. You guys are not getting it in the shot.
Rumors abound that these messages and videos could shed light not only on Lively's and Baldoni's professional dynamic, but also on how much influence Ryan Reynolds may have wielded. Although Reynolds was never officially credited, he's widely believed to have played a major off-screen role. Some insiders say he provided detailed notes on the script, advocating for additional humor and encouraging the team to soften heavier themes for broad audience appeal. Baldoni claims that Reynolds' input muddied his mission to emphasize the novel's serious undertones. Now, speculation runs wild that the unreleased footage may reveal Lively openly applauding Reynolds' interventions or even scenes of Baldoni accepting comedic revisions, before he later called them a betrayal of the book's fundamental spirit. Another focal point is when Lively's dissatisfaction took root. She contends that she was uneasy for a significant period, only remaining silent until she felt circumstances had grown intolerable. Baldoni tells a different story, saying that everything was amicable until requests for script alterations and elaborate outfits became excessive. So how does the rumored footage intersect with this timeline? If it depicts Lively wholeheartedly participating at a late stage, it could undermine her claim of long-standing discontent. This raises the question of whether she hid her disquiet, or if the production environment shifted so quickly that her earlier optimism vanished practically overnight. Adding another layer to this drama is gossip about a world-famous singer rumored to be a close friend of Lively. Word has it that this superstar was involved in suggesting script modifications and shaping some of the film's comedic direction. The newly leaked footage could clarify the extent of that role. If there are clips of Lively urging the adoption of these celebrity-inspired ideas, while Baldoni objects, it might bolster his argument that the adaptation was drifting away from its bittersweet roots. Conversely, Lively's supporters insist that innovative concepts from high-profile collaborators can enhance a film rather than dilute it, pointing to what they see as Baldoni's inflexibility. As the scandal mushrooms, public opinion is split. Fans of the novel are upset that a story known for its uplifting themes of empathy and personal growth has been eclipsed by high-octane headlines. Investors and producers tied to the project are also keeping a close eye on the unfolding situation, as no one wants internal strife to overshadow a big-budget adaptation. In Hollywood, the perception of a harmonious set can heavily influence a film's prospects, even before any promotional campaign takes off. Every new leak seems to further muddle the project's public image. Blake Lively, lauded for her warm public persona, now faces the possibility that these behind-the-scenes accounts may cast her in a less flattering light. The phrase "loses it" has circulated on social media, fueling unverified reports that she had especially volatile moments on set, and in private production meetings.
It's a bit of a tough adjustment in our house, but it's good. I mean, I have two other daughters, so my oldest is very into the baby, but my middle child, not so much. But we're thinking of keeping her.
Does she like play with her? What does she think?
Well, she sort of like pretends to play with her. So like in the beginning, our oldest is like loving on her, and she's like very maternal, and then our middle daughter is just keeps away from her.
Some see these leaks as a deliberate effort to undermine her credibility. Her team counters that out-of-context snippets do not accurately represent her overall experience. They also stress that a single exchange or text message can't possibly capture the nuanced nature of her position or the ever-evolving production process. Among the various leaked references, one recurring theme is Lively's claim that she often felt overlooked. Yet the footage reportedly includes segments where she commends Baldoni's approach, applauding his skill at fostering authentic emotional performances. For Baldoni's side, this is a potential game changer. If Lively truly praised some of his directorial choices, was she really as disregarded as she claims? Lively's defenders point out that moments of genuine approval do not necessarily negate later periods of frustration, noting that a large-scale project can rapidly shift, especially when influenced by multiple voices, from well-known stars to trusted confidants. A particularly scrutinized incident is the rumored meltdown during a meeting at Lively and Reynolds' property. Baldoni recounts that the meeting was intended to finalize key stunt logistics, but tensions escalated over perceived remarks about training. The story goes that Reynolds interpreted certain statements as slighting Lively's physical abilities, leading to raised voices and the scrapping of a pivotal scene. If any footage from that day is made public, it could confirm or challenge various accounts, whether the gathering was purely practical or whether Lively and Reynolds were right to feel lines had been crossed. Baldoni labels it an unfortunate misunderstanding. Lively says the atmosphere was already fraught enough that any meeting threatened to boil over. This emphasis on unreleased footage has also intensified pressure on the lawyers for both parties. Baldoni's attorney has hinted there could be an even larger trove of evidence yet to be unveiled. That possibility alone might push Lively's representatives to consider settling, though whether they'd opt for an agreement outside the courtroom is anybody's guess. The prospect of additional leaks undermining Lively's timeline or motives certainly looms, just as Baldoni might worry about damning evidence revealing his own inconsistencies. In the court of public opinion, a single revealing clip can prompt a dramatic shift in support. Both sides could decide a private settlement is preferable to risking an endless drip of potentially damaging disclosures on social media.
We always tease each other. He was, after I gave birth, he was like, oh my gosh, if I lost you and I, went to the park with our 3 kids, I mean, think of the ladies I can. He's like, this is a horrible thing to say. And he's like, I mean, I've got a long list. And I was like, oh, really? Because I just have 1 on my list. I don't have anyone on my list.
And then it wasn't funny anymore.
No, it's so much more of a burn. He's like, wait, who? And I was like, think of someone. Bob Newhart, I don't know.
On the production side, the pressing question is whether the movie can move forward at all. Some insiders whisper that certain producers and financiers are growing hesitant, reluctant to commit more resources to a project mired in legal and PR entanglements. Others remain optimistic, pointing out that Hollywood has weathered high-profile controversies before, which sometimes fade away once a final cut wins over audiences. Nonetheless, the level of scrutiny here is exceptionally high. Fans of the novel had envisioned a faithful adaptation, rich in emotional growth and empathy. They now worry the film may morph into something unrecognizable, shaped by comedic reworks, lavish visuals, and ongoing clashes among the principals. While the legal struggle progresses, the rumor mill is in overdrive. Many speculate that the feud boils down more to clashing egos and reputations than genuine creative disagreements. After all, it's common for big-budget pictures to include comedic beats or fashionable updates, and it's not unusual for directors to step in and protect a story's dramatic underpinnings. But the size of Baldoni's defamation suit, coupled with the high-wattage stars involved, has catapulted this into a tabloid-level saga, watched not only by fans but also by industry professionals who see it as a case study in what can happen when star power, massive financial backing, and diverging visions collide. For Lively especially, whose brand rests on her likable, relatable persona, accusations of manipulating public narratives can be harmful. Should new footage emerge showing her happily embracing comedic or stylistic flourishes, she later denounced as imposed, some might question her account. Alternatively, if context-rich videos show she consistently raised objections and struggled to be heard, It would strengthen her argument that she felt ignored. In some leaked segments, Lively is reportedly heard praising a scene's emotional heft, thanking Baldoni for the way he directed it. Baldoni's attorneys would likely tout these instances as indisputable evidence that Lively endorsed his vision, running counter to her public complaints. Lively's camp would argue that a few encouraging comments do not cancel out potential conflicts that arose down the line. Because creative processes can shift rapidly as new suggestions come in, one must examine how frequently those positive comments were made and whether they outnumbered any negative incidents that might have followed.
I mean, honestly, the way that I get into a character is through their style. So it was more about who Lily is that was so fascinating to me, is that she's a walking, talking contradiction, yet it's perfectly harmonious for her.
The alleged confrontation at Lively and Reynolds' home has also resurfaced in public chatter, now that additional video or audio may exist to document what actually transpired. Baldoni claims it was a routine get-together about technical matters, but misunderstandings over certain remarks caused it to spiral out of control. Lively's circle maintains that by that stage, tensions were so high that any meeting risked blowing up into a major dispute. If recordings from that day come to light, they could confirm whether it was purely a logistical discussion that went awry, or if deeper hostilities had been festering for quite some time. From the sidelines, observers are trying to gauge whether the newly revealed footage truly uncovers Lively's hidden opinions about Baldoni, or merely illustrates how swiftly production dynamics can shift in a high-stakes project. Some see the saga as a gripping peek behind the Hollywood curtain, where meticulously cultivated public personas can buckle under the stress of ambitious creative endeavors. Others view it as an unfortunate derailment that could overshadow a potentially moving adaptation of a much-revered book. Ultimately, if the recently leaked footage is released in its entirety, it may compel people to rethink who was aligned with the film's creative trajectory and who might have been resisting it. It could expose instances where Lively genuinely admired Baldoni's methods, conflicting with her later statements about feeling sidelined. Or it might unveil overlooked nuances that recast Baldoni in a different light, showing he was more amenable to humorous or glamorous revisions than he let on. As both camps brace for the fallout, the public can only wait to see which account this new material will ultimately support. For fans of both Lively and the original novel, the primary hope is that the project itself can be salvaged. No one wants a drawn-out legal clash to eclipse the emotional journey that originally drew so many readers. Still, with each fresh leak stoking yet another wave of speculation, it remains to be seen whether a peaceful resolution is even possible, or if further revelations will continue dominating news cycles, making it tougher to recall what prompted everyone to come together in the first place: the ambition to adapt a deeply affecting story for the screen.